Just
Hello, everyone. And it's Mary Lynn Harris here. I'm with the podcast of Creating an Impactful Legacy. And today I have on the call with me Jill Valdez. I don't usually pronounce last names, but welcome, Jill. I'm
thank you.
so glad that you could join me today. So, Jill, we're just having a previous little conversation. So, Jill, can you tell me a little bit how you got into doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Um, Thank you, first of all, for having me on this show. I love just engaging with other people and um, sharing goodness and sharing myself with their audience. So thank
Mhm.
you.
You're welcome.
Yes. So I was an executive pastor for almost 20 years, and I thought I'd be doing that for all of my life.
Mhm.
And as the executive pastor, I handled like the business side of the church world and
Mhm.
managing the volunteers and the administration and all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I was at a place and I was at a church that was going through some financial struggles. And so I resigned my position and decided to jump into the for profit sector.
Okay.
And in doing that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be really far behind." Businesses, they already have so much figured out and, I was like, well, I'm still gonna make the jump because that's what I do." So so I went to work for a company and I was working for them as their project manager. And I came to realize that the skills that I had and the understanding that I had about how to activate people and how to bring out the best in them and how to get them to really enjoy being a part of an organization,
Mhm.
businesses didn't know how to do that.
Mhm.
And and it was just something that I just kind of naturally do. So as I was doing it for this company, I was finishing up my master's degree, and the owner came to me and he said, "So I'm kicking you out of the nest." He said, "You need to start your own agency doing for other companies what you've done for mine, and doing it for more than one company at a time and doing it as something different than an employee." And so that's how I started my agency 2.5 years ago. And
Wow.
here I am.
It's
Yeah.
amazing that he saw that in you and said, "Hey, you need to venture off onto your own." That's so cool.
Yes. Yeah, he's been one of my biggest cheerleaders and my biggest advocates. I appreciate all that he's done and um but yes, I think about that from an owner's perspective and I'm not so sure that I would send one of my somebody who's making such an impact be like, "Oh yeah, you need to go."
Well, I think, it's not so much that he wanted you to go, probably just
Right.
knew that you had a greater purpose other than just, helping him, and you helped him a lot probably, and he just said, "Oh my god," like, she could help so many more people than
Right.
just me, you know?
Yep.
So I
Yep.
don't think that as a negative. I see that as,
Yep.
"Wow, what a nice guy that he saw that in you and that, he was able to push you out the door."
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, um, uh, who do you like to work with, and maybe share a story about what makes you so unique in doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I love working with small businesses. I don't really have an industry that I'm like, "Oh, that's my favorite."
Right.
My heart is for those smaller businesses,
Mm.
with 40 or less employees. I've been a part of those small companies for so long, and I've seen and experienced so often that they're doing great work. They're doing
Mhm.
amazing things, and really the leadership is wanting to get better and they're wanting to grow.
Right.
Most of the time they're not like going, "Oh, let's stay the same," but they can't. They can't afford, the conferences or afford the consultant or afford a
Right.
coach because it can be super, super expensive. I had that when we were pastoring. We had a small church and yet there was this amazing pastors conference. I knew it would be so valuable, but it was like $1,500. We didn't have
Right.
that kind of money. So
Right.
so
Yeah.
I love serving the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
I think about there was this one company that I worked with, and it was a dentist's office. And she was a friend of mine, and she saw a post that I had put out, and she was like, "Jill, I need you to come and work with my company, and we're so broken. And she went on to tell me what was going on and
Yeah.
how things were just not working. And I loved going in there and being a part of watching that massive transformation. She texted me last month and just checked in and said, Jill, not only did you change our business, but you saved my marriage.
Mm,
And she went on to just tell me the impact of, and this is where, when
right.
you talk about creating an impactful legacy,
Mm-hmm.
this is what people have to understand is whatever they do in their work,
Mm-hmm.
that impacts their personal life and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like you might not think, oh, you think impactful legacy. Oh, that's somebody's doing really big things. I mean, no,
Right.
it's all the little things that you do that affect
Yeah.
your legacy.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, so cool. So,
Yeah.
let's see, what else can I ask you? So just yeah, just keep talking, just keep sharing some of the things that the clients that you said like working with small businesses, it doesn't really matter what they do. And so what kind of things would you go in and do and help them? I mean, what would be some signs or clues that you know I would need to know to say, hey, Jill, these people need help, or make the introduction?
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit. When I first started Link, I was so naive to think that when people heard that I was going to be available for coaching and consulting, I literally thought my phone would be ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
Not the case.
No, that's quite work.
So I had to learn all about marketing and really kind of figuring out what is it that I do and how do I describe that to other people? And
Right.
that's still in reality a process. Like I basically have the gist of it, but sometimes I can get a little lost when talking about it. But what I did was I did narrow down that how we help companies particularly is three different ways. We have a consulting package
Mm-hmm.
where for 6 to 9 months I'm going to be a part of that company. We're going to do a deep dive into who is the staff, what is their personality, what's their emotional intelligence, some of the
Yeah.
psychology stuff.
Yeah.
Really getting an understanding of who are their people, and then thinking about where does the company want to go? And so
Mhm.
from that, what roles do they need to have? I see so often that small businesses, they create their organization chart based on whoever they happen to have on staff at the time. And so
Right.
it's always changing, and it's,
Mhm.
just dependent on people. But the real thing to do is to make it based on roles. What are the roles that you need? And how do we develop the people
Mhm.
that you have? Where are the good fits for that, and then who might you need to hire.
Mhm.
um, but it's really about, I talk about how it's easy for companies to have a completely new team
Mhm.
without making a single new hire.
Yeah.
um, just in the fact of understanding who are the people that work for me,
Yeah.
um, and then engaging them and activating them and giving them more ownership and bringing out the best in them, pulling out their strengths and allowing them the opportunity to work in those strengths.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, kind of a little bit of what you were saying is their strengths and what do they want to do, right?
yeah, yes, absolutely. Like I've seen companies where they have some really amazing staff, and they're like, oh, we think this person would be good in this role, so we're going to put them there. But then when I've talked to that person, they're like, I don't like that stuff. I'm not good at that stuff. If I could have any role in this company, I would want to do this. And,
Yeah.
just to then talk to the owner and go, what if you made this shift? And, it's like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And then when you have
Mhm.
people doing what they love to do, they're
Mhm.
going to come in excited to work, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, yes, I get to go to work today. They're not going to wake up dreading Mondays like, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and it makes such a one of the things as I was realizing what Link can do for companies is we help them grow, we help them reduce their overhead, we help them make a profit without spending any extra money on marketing,
Yeah.
without having to get new clients. It's just they're going to increase their efficiency and effectiveness of their team.
Mhm.
And then clients are going to notice that and they're going to be super happy. And then they're going to refer out
Right.
to other people. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing, like, Jill, is that, how many things companies can actually do, especially small ones, because they can move
Yeah.
faster, they make decisions faster. They can anyway. And,
Yes.
make that shift just so that they could say, "Hey, if we do this and that, we could have better employees, we have better processes," and, you know,
Right.
like that type of thing. It's just how you S you know, I think it's just like the book, that wrote the book, The Happiness Factors. It's, kind of what you're saying. I come in and help you bring more happiness in your workplace by
Yeah.
helping you just, figure out where you're at and where you want to go.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And just making sure that you have the right people on the bus, that they're sitting in the right seats
Y-
and that they're even on the right bus, like,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
um, that one company that I mentioned, when I first was working with them, it became very apparent that there was one staff member that really needed to go.
Right.
That she just was not a good fit for them. She didn't want to make any changes. She didn't buy into the culture. She wanted things the way that they were 20 years ago,
Right.
and that's not reality.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You have to kind of grow with the organization and be willing to shift and change, right?
yep,
And,
absolutely.
I'm just a small person and I'm going one single company, but, I know that if I don't shift and pivot, that I'll be lost in
Sure.
the ditch somewhere over there too, right? Because you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Otherwise
Yeah.
you miss it all. Yeah.
Well, I think that we were starting to see that
Mhm.
before COVID,
Yeah.
right? Like, um, I was joking with somebody how 2 Christmases ago, who would have thought that we weren't getting the Toys R Us Christmas catalog, right? Like, I mean, Toys R Us, they've been around forever. Nobody stopped using toys, but there's something in their structure that made them become obsolete.
Yeah.
And now, they are no longer.
Yeah.
That's a giant corporation that nobody would have ever thought. So we all have had to learn, that we cannot keep doing things the way that we've always done it.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit,
Yeah.
and we really had to make those pivots.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So what are some pivots that you've seen that companies do that has helped, you've been able to help them with?
yeah, the biggest thing is helping them be aware of the fact that their people are truly the key to the future of the organization.
Mhm.
It's not about spending more on advertising. It's not about um, even hiring more people or changing. I've seen some companies where they just change processes all the time. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, we must not be doing this right. And so, and all along they have people on their team that are like, if they would just ask me,
Yeah.
just find out what I know, if they would put me in a place where I could do what I'm fully capable of doing, we
Yeah.
would be able to do amazing things.
Right, right. Yeah, that's always the key, right? Just communicate and talk with people and find out like what what they want and where they want to go, and it's
Yeah.
all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like short story is that when I was pivoting, I said, okay, what do you want to do next? And I said, okay, well, let's go back to kindness, the kindness business, the business of
Yeah.
kindness. And it was funny. So I was just starting asking a few people in business, like, is it still something that's needed, or is it just,
Mm.
like it's gone beyond that, or everybody's doing really good? And I had so many women founders tell me, oh my God, we need that more than ever. And I says, really?
Yes.
I would think
Oh,
over time that we've gotten kind of a little friendlier or helpful. And they said, no, it's terrible. One girl said, I used to work for this company, and the boss, the CEO, his office was over there, and a pool of us were working over here. He had to go by us to go get himself some coffee. He never once stopped, said, good morning. How are you
yeah.
guys doing? Have a little chit chat. Never, ever. And then he'd walk back to his office. And I understand that he might have a lot of things on his mind and these things, because we do, but there's no reason why he couldn't just simply stop to say, hello, good morning, and walk back and forth. And there's some acknowledgement. And then, as
Yeah.
people are more receptive to that, there's going to be more conversation. But it's just,
Right.
that just kind of shocked me. I just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
A- And now, I mean, with COVID and everybody, especially when everybody was working from home,
right.
I read in a study that 64% of people
Hmm.
felt completely detached from the company that they worked for because nobody was reaching out to them. People weren't,
Yeah.
and this is what we have to do in these days and age right now is
Right.
we have to be super intentional about reaching out to our people, touching base with them. And I teach on communication and I teach
Yeah.
on personality. So there are some personalities that they're just like, I love working from home. I love not having to interact with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But even them, they still need to be checked in on.
Right.
And if they're the leader, they need to realize that their people are dying on the vine. And
Hmm.
so even to just shoot out a quick email, shoot out a quick text, I'm thinking of you, hope all is well. And that's it. Like you don't even have to ask a question to be like, is there anything you need? Because all the people who are like super driven, they're like, no, I don't want to open up that conversation. But but again, people respond to when you're you're putting yourself out there, to when you're sending that message. Just even sending that message makes somebody be like, oh, they're thinking of me. That I really appreciate that.
Right. Right. And do you find a lot of companies do any of these like virtual happy hours or anything? Or are they just doing just a lot of work?
Mostly it's a lot of work, which
Okay.
is really sad.
Yeah.
And some of it is they just, so many companies haven't even figured out how to do virtual world. I was working virtually long before COVID
Yeah.
ever happened. I
Yeah.
worked for a company and I moved to a totally different state, and so they put up a TV
Mhm.
right over where my desk used to be,
Yeah.
and so they're like, and then I was virtually present every day. They're like, wow, it's like you haven't even left the office. Um, so, there's ways to do that so that people are still having that connection because you don't have that. Like think about how often, if you think about how often you really connect with people when you're working in the same space.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned about the guy, walking to the bathroom, walking to the copy machine, walking to go get a drink or whatever. Anytime he walked by, whether he acknowledged it or not, there still was that opportunity for connection.
Right.
And we don't have that anymore.
Hmm.
Working from home, I go to the bathroom. I see my dog, you know? And so we have to find new ways to create those water cooler experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those situations where people could still engage and have a conversation and still feel good about what they're doing and who they work for.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's the biggest challenge, I guess. And would you call that like teamwork, or would you call that something else, or just engagement?
Um, it's a little of both. It's
Yeah.
certainly teamwork and it's engagement. It's making sure that everybody's staying connected to each other as a team. Because
Mhm.
again, if you're not working in office with somebody, it's easy, especially over emails and texts, it's easy for misunderstandings.
Yeah.
It's easy for things to get missed.
Yeah.
And, that can just create so much strife. So,
Right. Yeah.
paying attention to how is the team working together, how are things going, and so that takes somebody doing those check-ins,
Yeah.
checking in with the staff. How are things going? What's working well? What's not working? What's missing? What's confusing?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I
so
guess I find myself sometimes, like you were saying, we're texting, emailing. I'll just have to pick up the phone and say, hey, like I sent this, but it really means this.
right. Yeah.
And so what I got from your response is that, there's some confusion there, because otherwise, how do we know? It's just
Right.
like I was doing these I'm doing these kindness conference, and one of the guys that was going to speak, he said, you know, he said, I'm not getting all these messages you're sending them out, because I had to get somebody else to send them to him because his email kept bouncing me out. So
Oh,
I had to find another email address to
uh,
use for his email service provider. So, but what I should have done, pick up the phone, but I did pick up the phone eventually and just said, look, at the problem is blah, blah, blah. I don't know why that's happening. So I'm just going to change a different email and just for you. And he said, yeah, I'm getting them now. So it's like, oh my gosh, so sometimes the simple phone call just really will clear up a lot of issues. And he was thinking he was being left out on purpose. And
yeah.
and
Oh,
I'm going, no, 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 not on purpose at all. I'm getting frustrated because I don't know what to do, like what's going on.
sure.
And but yeah, it's a lot of misunderstandings, like you're saying, with texts and emails, and people miss the message. They think, oh my God, like you know, they're attacking me. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and even like with masks, when we're having to wear masks and stuff,
yeah,
like uh, I do the very best that I can to make sure that my eyes are smiling, but
yeah,
how facial expressions and like I'm super expressive
yeah,
and so to not be able to communicate and I mean the studies on nonverbal communication,
yeah.
that's a huge thing that's missing, and then you factor in that it's being done through writing.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, it just can be a very big recipe for disaster. We have to, and that's where we have to remind each other that we have to think the best about each other,
Right.
like I'm not, if I miss an email, it can be very easy for me to think, "Oh, they did that on purpose," or "They're leaving me out," or "They've got their own agenda," or whatever.
Hmm.
But then if I shift my perspective and think, "Oh, I'm sure it was an accident, this
Yeah.
is a new system that everybody's having to get used to." Just having the perspective of kindness
Right.
and the perspective of thinking the best of others, then it can help alleviate some of that stress.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. So Jill, can you, I just had a question that popped in my head, is that, can you share with me and anybody that's listening, is about what is your favorite part of your job that you love to do?
Oh,
We're speaking of
I
other people, and I'm going, okay, what about Jill?
I love helping people. That is my heart, is just helping people live the best life possible.
Hmm.
Realizing their fullest potential as either a company or as a leader or as a follower. I love doing that,
Hmm.
and just watching in conversations, when they get it,
Yeah.
when you're talking them through something, when you're asking them questions, and all of a sudden that light bulb moment where they're like, "Oh my gosh," it's so exciting and so rewarding to see.
Hmm.
And that's why I do what I do, is just so that people can experience those moments that they learn. I talk about I in my mission statement is my personal mission statement is that I love helping people overcome obstacles so that
Hmm.
they can be all their purpose to be. So
Hmm.
that's what I love about what I do, is just
Hmm.
helping people live that life of purpose, and learning how to bring out the best in others, bringing out the best in themselves. It's fabulous. I
Yeah.
love helping people.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows in your expressions and who
Aw,
you are and everything. So that's great. So you have any
thanks.
final words that you'd like to share with everybody or anybody?
Oh, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to talk and to get to know you a little bit better, to be able to share my story. And so
Hmm.
thank you for this. And, anybody who's out there that's just thinking, gosh, I work at a really sucky company, or, or any business owner that's thinking, wow, I wish my company could be all that I dreamed that it could be when I started it.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a help for them. I'd
Mhm.
love to have a conversation with them and talk about what's working and what's not working, and just start that strategy conversation about about what could possibly be, because I am a huge dreamer,
Yeah.
you know, and I love to help other people get back in touch with their dreams and their belief and their hope for the future, and then giving them actual steps that they can start taking forward in order
Mhm.
to make those dreams a reality.
Right, right. Oh, great. That sounds so awesome, Jill. Well, I want to get bigger. I'll hire you.
Please do. And if you're thinking about hiring people, I help with recruiting. So
Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining me, Jill. I so appreciate our conversation. It was a delight. And so, yeah, thank you very, very much.
thank you
And
again.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
creating an impactful legacy in your life and in your business and helping
It's my
other
pleasure.
people. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And ending, I like to say be kind to each other because that's all we've got. So
Yes.
it's always about the little things that we do for ourselves and others that makes a difference in your life and your business. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Okay, bye bye.